my totally tubular gamers. We're back with another video. Let's get to it.
So today we're going to be talking about something a little different. The topic of today's video is pretty shrimple. We're going to be talking about games that I got rid of. Despite being somebody that absolutely adores and loves video games, there have been plenty of titles that I've gotten rid of throughout my life for one reason or another. And so for today's video, I thought I would talk about 15 games that I got rid of. I feel like it's pretty rare that I actually get rid of video games, especially nowadays, and that's not just because most of the games I get are digital, but because I like building the collection. Even if it's a game that I didn't particularly resonate with, but these 15, oh yeah, I got rid of all of them. And we're gonna go over why. This list is in no particular order, this isn't a ranking, these aren't reviews or anything like that. I'm just sharing my stories here. This list is not in any particular order, these aren't reviews, this isn't a ranking or anything like that. But I'd also love to know, what games have you all gotten rid of? I'm sure plenty of you have gotten rid of games in the past. I think this is a very relatable subject. So let's get a discussion going down below. As always, please like, share, comment, subscribe. I got the Patreon, the super thanks, and memberships. Any support is truly greatly appreciated. Thank you all so very much. And I want to give a major shout out to Dejct for being a totally tubular fan. Alright then, let's get to the games. So the first game that I want to talk about today is Sonic Forces. Now, I very much remember when Sonic Forces came out in 2017. I pre-ordered the game. I was actually pretty excited for it. Sonic really was on the up and up during this time. After years of decent to questionable games, we had just gotten Sonic Mania, which is one of the greatest Sonic games ever made, and this was the next Sonic game, and so naturally, I was pretty excited. How were they going to follow up? Was the next 3D outing going to be anywhere near as good as Sonic Mania? The short answer is no. Sonic Forces is sadly not a very good game, and even though the game does have some bright moments here and there, for the most part, I was pretty disappointed with this one. This is probably the most disappointed I've actually ever been with a Sonic game. And it's also like the shortest 3D Sonic game ever. I remember it took me like 3.5, about 4 hours to beat it. I beat it in literally one sitting and went, that's it? That's the whole game? I really pre-ordered this and paid like $50 for it. Now, Sonic games being short is nothing new. One of the best Sonic games ever, Sonic Generations, it's like 4 or 5 hours. Shoot, I just talked about Sonic Mania. That game's only a few hours as well, but those games are very replayable. There's quality over quantity. They're very short, replayable, exciting experiences. With Sonic Forces, it was just short. The game was dull, it wasn't exciting, and it certainly didn't feel replayable. I have had no desire since I beat this game to go back to it in any capacity whatsoever. I have no interest in returning to these levels, and really my interest in this game is at an all-time low, outside of listening to some of the music. Some of the music is pretty decent in Sonic Forces. And so after beating the game and feeling just next to nothing, I said, you know what, I'm going to do something that I very rarely do. I'm actually going to get rid of the game. And so I ended up selling the game just a few days later. I remember I got like $40 for it, which is pretty good. That was pretty close to retail. But yeah, like all these years later, this is like the only Sonic game I've ever gotten rid of. I never got rid of Secret Rings. I never got rid of Unleashed or Black Knight or Shadow the Hedgehog or any of the other crummy Sonic games. I really hung on to all of them. Sonic Forces, you know, I just really didn't feel anything, and I said I can't see myself coming back to this game. And so what's done is done, and you know what, all these years later, I think I made the right decision. Sonic games don't really get more forgettable than Sonic Forces. And so the next game we have here is Pokemon Shield. Now, I love Pokemon, I've loved Pokemon since I was a small child, I played Pokemon growing up. But there actually was a time in my life where I didn't play Pokemon. I didn't play Black and White 1 or 2, I didn't play X and Y, I didn't play Sun and Moon, and I didn't really try any of the spin-offs in that time either. But then I saw Pokemon Shield, and it was going to be the first time that a mainline Pokemon game was going to be on a home console, and I said, you know what, it's been over 10 years, I think I'm going to check this new one out. And man, oh man, was I disappointed by this one. I remember playing through the game in a few days. I think I beat it in a weekend, and by the time I was done with it, I was just like, wow, that was incredibly underwhelming. Like, that was one of the most underwhelming experiences I've ever had. I honestly started to question everything. I was like, was the Pokemon games I played as a kid any good? Maybe I'm the wrong demographic for this now. Maybe I've just been spoiled by all these other great RPGs. I was asking all the questions. And so I remember, I went back and played the games that I played when I was younger, and you know what? They're still pretty great. Diamond and Pearl is awesome, Pokemon XD is great, Generation 1 through 4, nothing but classics. I went and played some of the spin-offs also, and you know what? I enjoyed some of these more than the main games. New Pokemon Snap is one of my favorite games ever, and so then I realized who the real culprit of this issue was. it was Pokemon Shield. This game just kinda sucks. I have a lot of issues with it, and not just from a technical standpoint either. Like, yeah, the game looks like shit and it doesn't run all that well. Neither does Pokemon Scarlet, but I actually like that game. No, I had problems with this game on the fundamental level. The routes were terrible, the Wild Zone felt totally underdeveloped, the game was just stupidly easy, it was mind-numbingly simple, type advantages didn't mean like anything, the list goes on and on. Pokemon Shield is, in my opinion, the weakest in the mainline series, and once I realized just how much I disliked this game, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna get rid of this. There are so many other better Pokemon games that I could play that are literally on the Switch as well. This game also just gave off a bad energy to me. I mean, the game made me question my love for Pokemon. It made me wonder if the series was even any good to begin with, or if I was the problem. So with all that, I said, yeah, the game's gotta go, and I got rid of it. There have been plenty of other Pokemon games I've played since then, and I've actually really enjoyed some of them, like Legends Arceus, but Pokemon Shield, I got no love for this game. And so here I got a pretty recent one. It kind of inspired this entire list. I have the House of the Dead 1 and 2 remakes. Now, the House of the Dead, I love this franchise to death. I've been playing it since I was a little kid. I would go to the movie theaters and House of the Dead was always there. And I'd usually play it for a little bit. I would say that House of the Dead 2 might be my favorite rail shooter of them all. Like, it's just a classic. But I also understand that it's not the most readily available. I mean, it comes from a bygone era of light gun shooters. And so when I saw that the original House of the Dead was getting remade by the studio known as Megapixel Studio, I was actually initially pretty excited. I was like, yes, it's finally time for House of the Dead to come back. It's really making the comeback that it deserves. And then I played the game and went, wow, this is not it. This is not what I really remember House of the Dead being at all. And I was like, maybe it's just me. And I looked it up. No, a lot of people have the same sentiment about this House of the Dead remake. It just feels kind of soulless and cheap and thrown together, and not in a fun, campy way like the original kind of felt. No, it feels like it was a mobile game, and at times it also looks like it. I really just don't care for how this game looks. I don't like the visual design, I don't like the aesthetic, I don't think it matches the original, and it lacks any charm that the original had either. And the gameplay just didn't feel anywhere near as nice as the original. I played it on Steam with mouse and keyboard, and so I wasn't expecting it to feel like, you know, the gun. And I wasn't expecting the feedback of the original either, but this just did not feel good. And so after beating the game one time, in about 40 minutes I might add, I did something that I very rarely do. I actually refunded the game and got my money back. I said, yeah, I don't want this. No thanks, and got my money back. And that would have been the end of it, but no, Megapixel Studio came back and they remade House of the Dead 2 this year. And I said, okay, let me check this one out. I love House of the Dead 2 also. Maybe they learned from their mistakes and it's a better game. Well, after playing through this, I said, yeah, this really isn't any better than the House of the Dead 1 remake. I have the exact same issues with it. The whole thing just feels really cheap and thrown together. There's not a lot of extra content here, and the shooting just doesn't feel all that good. And so you know what I did? The exact same thing I did with the original House of the Dead remake. I refunded it on Steam as well. I said, I don't want to play this anymore, and at this point, if they make a House of the Dead 3 remake, yeah, I'm not going to be checking that one out either. I'm just going back to the originals. The Wii version is pretty awesome. Shit, I'll take the Dreamcast version over whatever the fuck this remake is. Stay away from both of these remakes. These are genuinely some of the worst remakes I've ever seen of a video game, and I got no regrets taking these back. So here's one that kind of makes me sad, and that is Crash Team Arena. Now, I love Crash Bandicoot. I grew up with the series. I've played every single Crash game. It's one of my favorite series ever, but even I was pretty skeptical when I saw this live service multiplayer focused Crash title. I just went, yeah, I don't know about this one, but like a good Crash fan, I went and picked the game up and played a good few hours of it. I remember I even made a ranking video where I looked at the modern Crash games and talked about this one for a while. And I'm not going to act like I didn't have fun with this game. I absolutely did. There were plenty of moments where shit actually got kind of tense, things started to heat up, and at times it was a pretty entertaining experience, but as the days and weeks went on, I found myself coming back to this less and less and liking it less and less. The game just didn't launch with enough content. Even being a live service title, it felt like there was barely even a game here. There was only one game mode and a few maps, and there wasn't any single player content either. And after a few weeks of this, I think like a month or two, I just said, do I really want to sit around waiting for more content to come so that I can potentially have more fun with the game? Or am I just going to cut my losses here and get like $30 for the game? and I chose the latter of those two. Yeah, the game was starting to get better and better with the updates, but I also didn't really want to wait around for the game to finally be good. I wanted it to be good at launch and then become great, not like serviceable and then it becomes good a year later, which seems to be the case with a lot of other live services, but I was really hoping Crash would be different. At the end of the day, I don't really regret my decision. The game stopped getting updates relatively quickly, and I can't imagine that there's that active of a player base, especially not at this point. And this one really just has me frowning because I feel like there was a lot of potential for a Crash game like this, and what we got was just meh. And so here's one that I've talked about a few times, so I'll keep things pretty brief. We have Assassin's Creed Unity. Now, I got Assassin's Creed Unity at launch. I pre-ordered it. I was pretty excited. It was the first real next-gen Assassin's Creed, and there was even going to be co-op in it. But you can probably imagine how this story goes. I played it on release and just went, what the fuck is this? It was broken beyond belief. There were so many bugs, and when it wasn't breaking, I still wasn't really enjoying what I was playing either, and I thought the co-op wasn't even that good. So yeah, after just playing even a few hours of this and the game just kind of breaking in numerous different ways, I went, I'm good. I'm gonna get rid of this one, and maybe in a few years I'll come back to it when they fixed it. And that's actually exactly what I did. I might have gotten rid of the game initially, but I did get it back, and I have played through this game in its entirety, and while it's not completely broken, I still don't think it's all that great of a game, and it's one of the weaker Assassin's Creeds in my opinion. But hey, I guess that is kind of a happy ending to the story. I mean, I have it on Steam now, so I can't get rid of it for a quick buck. At that point, I might as well just hang on to it. So this one shouldn't surprise anybody. We have Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5. I've made it very well known that I absolutely despise this game. I think Peak 5 is one of the worst video games to have come out ever, and it's probably my most hated game of all time. Like, I really genuinely do hate this game, and for a small moment in time, this game ruined my life. And so you know how I fixed that? I got rid of the game. The game is just loaded with issues and has very few redeemable qualities about it. I actually came back to this game 10 years later in 2025 thanks to many people asking me to come back to it, and it's even worse than I remember. This game was shit then, it's shit now, and it's going to be shit forever. I made the right decision in getting rid of it, and you know, I technically got rid of it a second time as well. Just playing with putty here. Oh, there we go. Pro Skater 5. There we go. And so here's a game I've actually never talked about on the channel once, and that is Mario Party 10. Now, I love the Mario Party series. I've been playing it since I was a small child. I'm a longtime fan of this franchise, and I did actually have a Wii U. I certainly didn't play it much, but I had one, and I was waiting for the next big game for it. You know, Pikmin was awesome, DK Tropical Freeze is great, I even really enjoy Hyrule Warriors. And then I saw Mario Party 10, and I was like, you know, I love the Mario Party games on the 64, on the GameCube. Shit, I actually really love Mario Party 8. That's one of my favorites. I think I'll check out Mario Party 10. And so I got Mario Party 10, and the next day I remember a bunch of friends came over and we played the game for several hours, and we all just kind of went, what is this? I remember we were all just kind of shocked with how bad this game was. It not only was a terrible Mario Party, but it was just a terrible party game in general. For the main party mode, it still used the stupid car mechanic from Mario Party 9, and you know what? Fair to Mario Party 9. They tried to do something different. I don't think it worked out, but they were trying something new. Mario Party 10, yeah, this has no excuse. This is honestly worse than what Mario Party 9 even has. It barely feels like a competition. It barely even feels like a party game. It feels like we're all working together or something. It just led to the boards being so unbelievably dull. Like, if you want to talk about the worst boards in Mario Party history, they're all probably right here in Mario Party 10, along with the 3DS games. And while there were some decent mini games, for the most part, they were pretty forgettable. This game in general was just incredibly forgettable. But then it gets worse. They have Bowser Party, where somebody's on the Wii U gamepad who's Bowser, and then the 4 other players are playing with Wii remotes all going up against Bowser. This is just wildly unbalanced, and I didn't have any fun as Bowser or going up against Bowser. Even with friends, I didn't think it was all that enjoyable, but then I saw there was another game mode, and it was actually like traditional Mario Party, where everybody moves on their own and it feels like a real competition. And then it was locked to amiibos. Yeah, you had to use amiibos to even play this mode to begin with. Thankfully, one of my friends actually did have amiibos, and we tried this game mode, and wow, this sucks. It might be even worse than the cart. You literally just move around in a square and that's it. It really is the opposite of creative. It feels like this game in general was just allergic to creativity, and it's one of the most lifeless experiences I've ever had with a Nintendo game. Like, genuinely, this is one of the worst Nintendo games, one of the worst Mario parties, one of the worst Mario games ever, and so it wasn't even close. I got rid of the game real quick, said I'd rather get 50 or 60 bucks back, maybe try out another Wii U game, or better yet, just stay away from the Wii U. And all these years later, yeah, Mario Party 10 fucking sucks. So here's another one that just kind of puts me in a bad mood, and that is Star Wars Battlefront, specifically the 2015 game. Now, this game is pretty infamous at this point, so I'll try to keep things free of run-on sentences. I love the Star Wars Battlefront series. Battlefront 2 is one of the best Star Wars games ever. I was pretty excited that the series was coming back, and it was coming back by Dejct, the people who make the awesome Battlefield games, or at least at the time, awesome Battlefield games. This game had every reason to be incredible. I played the beta, I thought it was pretty good, got the game at release, thought it was pretty good for a week or two, and then I quickly realized just how shallow this entire experience is. Like, I knew going in that there wasn't going to be a single player, but it really felt like this game was just lacking a lot of content. Even when you don't compare it to the old Battlefront games, it feels like it just needed more. And then they said they were going to add more thanks to the season pass, and it had really what I wanted the main game to have: more characters, more maps, more game modes, and something I could play offline. But then they also wanted me to pay like 50 or 60 more dollars for that after I already paid like $60 for the game, and I just said, you know, I think I'm good. I don't think I'm going to be playing this game anymore. I've had my fun with it. I don't foresee myself playing it in the near future, and I really don't want to spend even more money on it. So screw it, I'm just going to get rid of it, and that's exactly what I did and haven't really looked back since. Yeah, I did briefly check it out for my 2025 Battlefront video, but really at this point, especially 10 years later, I am so good off of Battlefront 1. Battlefront 2, despite all of its issues in the shitty launch, is actually a much better game and more in line with the older Battlefronts, and is actually worth your time. Battlefront 1, this felt more like a tech demo at times, where they're like, this is what a next-gen Star Wars game could be, rather than this is the next-gen Star Wars game. However, despite all of that, I wouldn't say that the 2015 Battlefront game is bad. It was just disappointing and lacking in content more than anything else. Still though, I'm glad I said bye-bye to this one. So here's one with a happy ending, really probably the best ending of any of these games, at least in today's video, and that is Cyberpunk 2077. You already know where I'm going with this. I, like many others, got the game at launch on PS4 and went, yeah, this is broken beyond belief. It just had a whole heap of issues, and I saw that Amazon, Walmart, PlayStation, they were actually just offering full refunds. No matter how much time you put into the game, you could get a full refund, and I did exactly that. I took the game back, got my money back, and played something else instead. But then I, along with many other people, ended up getting the game back, and yeah, it's a much better game now. There was even the giant expansion Phantom Liberty, and it's one of the best RPGs of the last decade. It's a great game now that I have no problem recommending, but when I initially got it, yeah, I got rid of this one real quick. So here we have a bit more of a recent one with LEGO Horizon Adventures. Now, I enjoy Horizon Zero Dawn, I enjoy Horizon Forbidden West, I was even part of the DLC's development, but I unfortunately was laid off from PlayStation and Insomniac Games, and so I stopped getting free games from them, and I wanted to check out LEGO Horizon. You know, I like LEGO games, and I thought this game could be pretty cool, so I went and got it last year, played through the game in about 3 hours, and went, yeah, I think I'm gonna get rid of this one. I haven't really talked much about this game on the channel, and that's because there's just not really a lot to talk about with this game. It is not one of the TT LEGO games. Those games are much better than whatever this game has going for it. It is a very basic, bland, uninspired, kind of mindless romp, seeing you kinda go through the events of Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, some of them are here, and it does loosely follow the story, but it also kinda does its own thing, and it introduces all of the characters from Forbidden West. It feels like this game, more than anything else, is really made for children. See, TT LEGO games are made for everybody. Kids and adults can enjoy them. this game, it feels like if you're not a kid, you're the wrong demographic. The storytelling, the humor, the jokes, the gameplay, it all feels like it's made for a younger age. And while that's not inherently a bad thing, it left me as an adult not really enjoying this experience, and I just went, yeah, I don't see myself ever playing this again. I don't plan on having children, at least not anytime soon. I think I'm gonna get rid of this one. And I was actually able to get like MSRP for it as well, so I guess this isn't a total loss. But I certainly would not be recommending LEGO Horizon Adventures to anybody unless they have, you know, small children. And even then I would say you're probably better off playing any of the other LEGO games, especially the ones by TT. They're just so much more than what this game was. So here's another one I haven't talked about in a while, and that is Lords of the Fallen. And I'm not talking about the new Lords of the Fallen, I'm talking about the OG Lords of the Fallen from the early 2010s. Now, I actually got this game on release and I was pretty excited for it. This was one of the very first Souls-like games that wasn't developed by From Software. I love Dark Souls, I love every game that From makes, and I was really intrigued to see how another company would handle a Souls-like. Obviously, here in 2025, things are very different, and I, like many others, are pretty sick of Souls-likes, but back then this was new, it was refreshing, and I played Lords of the Fallen and it wasn't a very good game. Unfortunately, this is one of the worst Souls-likes of them all, and simply put, it just wasn't a very good game. I didn't really enjoy this all that much. I got about halfway through it and just said, you know, I don't really like this. The combat, the level design, the story, it wasn't coming together for me, and I said, I don't really want to continue, and I ended up dropping the game. After that, I remember hanging on to the game for quite a bit of time before eventually going, you know, I need a quick buck. I think I'm just going to trade the game into GameStop and get like $5-10, whatever it was. Didn't matter to me. I didn't plan on playing the game again, and I ended up trading in the game, getting jack shit in return. Do I regret that? No, I really don't think Lords of the Fallen is worth your time, and if I didn't get rid of it then, I probably would have gotten rid of it eventually. And then we have the new Lords of the Fallen, which funny enough I also dropped, but I was given a Steam code for that one by the actual developers, and so I'm not going to get rid of it. There's no incentive to get rid of it. It's just going to be sitting unfinished in my Steam library for all of eternity. Yippee. There's just something I got against Lords of the Fallen, I guess. And you know, I saw they're making another one. I hope they make another one. I hope it's better. Maybe I'll actually play through it. Probably not. And so here's one that might upset a few people, but we have No Man's Sky. Now, No Man's Sky has a pretty extensive history to it. You already know how it goes. The game released, a lot of people were disappointed, but over the course of several years, they really improved things and actually turned things around. However, I was there at release. The game actually came out on my birthday. I remember I asked for this game for my birthday. And so for my birthday, I got a Steam gift card and I went and bought the game and was immediately disappointed like many other people. The game just was not at all what I was expecting it to be. I wasn't really exploring these cool worlds. I wasn't interacting with other players whatsoever. I wasn't really interacting with anything. It felt like all I was doing was just crafting. I was just breaking stuff down, building stuff, and going to the next planet, and it all felt rather lifeless. I didn't find the gameplay loops compelling, engaging, or all that fun, and after about 8 or 9 hours of it, I was like, I don't really like this. Like, maybe this is just a case of me going into the game with the wrong expectations, but I walked away from this one pretty unhappy, and a lot of other people did as well, to the point where Steam was actually offering full refunds for No Man's Sky. No matter how much time you put into the game, they would fully refund you, no questions asked. And without even thinking about it, I went, yeah, I think I'm gonna get my money back, and returned the game pretty quickly, got all of my Steam money back, and I actually have never gone back to the game since. I know a lot of people have said, oh, No Man's Sky is so good now. It's such a great game. They turned it around. They actually did it. You should go play it. It really is worth your time. Well, I wouldn't know. I'm still bitter all these years later, low-key. I'm more mad about this than I was with Cyberpunk. Like, Cyberpunk, I could see the bones. I could see the foundation that there was something great there. And even with all the bugs, the story was pretty good. No Man's Sky, I just didn't really see anything with this gameplay. I was like, And I'm sure it's been vastly, vastly improved with multiplayer, more interactivity. It's probably a lot more fun and engaging. And you know, it's probably a lot better. But you know, being better than that initial release isn't exactly all that hard. Will I one day try the game again? Maybe. I certainly don't plan on it. If enough of you ask, maybe I will. Maybe I'll even stream it. But as things stand, I got rid of the game. I have no intention of getting it back, and that's just fine with me. And so here we have a recent game, actually the most recent game of this entire list, and that is the first Berserker Khazan. Now, I've talked about this game plenty of times. This game actually pissed me the fuck off. It's one of the hardest video games I have ever beaten in my entire life. It is up there with Sekiro in difficulty. It is just brutally, stupidly difficult. Like, this game is hard. It really is as hard as it gets. It's as hard as a concrete wall. That's the code word for today's video. Concrete, not saying at the end. It is honestly just too difficult for its own good. Even with an easy difficulty, the game is just absolutely ridiculous. It's to the point where I have trouble enjoying the game. It's so hard. Bashing my head against a wall for hours and hours on end at a boss that keeps whipping my ass is not fun. It got tedious, it got tiresome, and I was done with it. And I've had plenty of people show up in the comments and tell me, oh, if you use this build, if you use this weapon or this combination, it's super broken and you can destroy. I shouldn't have to use something like that. I should be able to just beat the game normally. I did beat the game normally, but fuck, it took forever. But yes, despite everything, I actually did beat the game. I also bought it physically for the PS5. You know why? Because I had a good feeling I'd want to get rid of it by the time I was done with it. And that's exactly what I did. I said, you know, I am never playing this game again. I have not had a game piss me off this much in forever. Why the fuck would I ever want to go back to this one? I'm still shocked that I actually beat the game. I was just so determined. I was so mad with how much this game was kicking my ass that I said I have to beat it. And at this point I asked myself, was it worth it? Probably not. I probably could have played through a few other games. I should have been playing through other better games like Avowed, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, shit. There are plenty of other Souls-likes that are way better than this, but I played through Khazan, I got rid of Khazan. Khazan is fucking gone. He was sent to the ether, to the Shadow Realm, and that is not changing anytime soon. I never want to think about this game again. But you already know I'm gonna be bitching and whining and complaining about this game for years to come. To Khazan, everybody. Fucker. So here's a game that I don't think I've ever talked about on the channel. It's Evolve. Yeah, do you remember Evolve from the mid-2010s? I certainly do. I was actually pretty excited for this one. I thought it was a really interesting concept, and I actually played multiplayer games back then. This was before I was trying to, you know, like conquer the backlog and finish as many games as possible. But anyway, back to Evolve. I was excited for it, I got it at release, and it was fun. I actually had a lot of fun with it for a few hours, especially with that first monster. Like, the gameplay was unique for the time. It created some really interesting gameplay loops, and it would at oftentimes be really exciting. And then I tried the other monsters, and while it wasn't as refined as that first one, it was still a fair amount of fun. I remember I actually put about 20 to 30 hours into this game in like a week. I was playing it pretty non-stop, but it was thanks to that I realized just how repetitive this game actually would get. Despite there being a number of different elements like which monster you were going up against or which character you were playing as, the loop was actually the same every single time, or at least it felt really samey. You just kind of hunted the monster down, you found it, it either ran away or it waited till it was level 3 and then it would show up to wipe the floor with you. And I just remember after a certain point I went, you know, I'm actually really sick of this gameplay loop. What else does the game have? Nothing. It didn't have anything else. They were adding more monsters later down the road as DLCs or whatever, and it was just another one of those instances where I was like, I don't really want to pay more money to have more fun with this game. Like, I already spent $60 on the game, and so I remember I stopped playing it for a little bit, and after a few weeks I went, you know, I think I'm just gonna get rid of it. I don't really see myself coming back to it. The thought of coming back to this game and doing the same gameplay loops over and over really wasn't enticing, and so yeah, I said goodbye to the game. Funny enough, I remember I almost got MSRP for it as well. I was impressed with how much money I got back. And yeah, I really just never looked back at Evolve. I remember it went free to play at some point, didn't check it out then, and then sadly the game actually got shut down. I guess this is one of those what could have been stories, but nowadays the game is basically completely inaccessible. Like, it doesn't go online, there was no single player, so yeah, we're just kind of done with this one. And then to finish things off here, we have Monster Jam Steel Titans. I feel like I haven't talked about this one in a while, but there's just not a whole lot to say with this one. The story goes like many others. I've enjoyed the Monster Jam games since I was a kid, and this was the first new Monster Jam game in quite some time. It was actually the first big budget Monster Jam game in several years, and I decided to give it a shot, and unsurprisingly, the game wasn't very good. It's one of the weaker Monster Jam titles, and while it's not absolutely atrocious, it really wasn't what I wanted from a Monster Jam game. It didn't have the best truck selection, it was really inconsistent with its physics, not really leaning on it being an arcade racer or a sim, just kind of this weird middle ground. It was kind of buggy, and it actually got very repetitive. I remember the game had this big open world it was hyping up throughout all of its marketing, and then there was like nothing to do in it. The game barely utilized the open world at all. A majority of the game was still in the stadiums, and it just got old. I remember this one got really tedious, and even though I did finish it, it wasn't the most enjoyable experience, and I hung on to it for a little bit before going, you know, I'm never going to play this game again. I'm not going to come back to it like I would with several other Monster Jam games like Path of Destruction, Urban Assault, or even Monster 4x4 on the GameCube, and so I said goodbye to it, I got rid of it, and don't plan on playing it anytime soon. Funny enough, there's actually been a number of Monster Jam games since then, and I've checked these out, and I've actually gotten rid of most of these as well, just because I don't think they're very good either, and I don't see myself ever playing them again. I don't really care if they're in the collection or not, and it's just one of those series where I go, fuck it, I'd rather have the Wendy's Spicy Nuggets than have this sitting on the shelf, which is a true story. Alright though, that's it for today's video. It was pretty interesting to talk about some games I got rid of. I had a lot of fun telling some stories here. Let me know down below of some stories you've got. I would genuinely love to hear it. With that, hope you all stay safe everybody. Have a good one. Bye bye.